If you're wondering about, well, now that I'm registered to vote, how do I make a good decision about what I do at the ballot? And also, I've got all this stuff coming in the mail, just huge spews of stuff, and they're very partisan, a lot of negative advertising. You know, that's really awful for the voter. Well, there is a solution, and here to tell us a little bit about it is Carol Watts from the League of Women Voters. Welcome, Carol.
Thanks, Gloria.
Well, you are the webmaster and a major force as part of a statewide steering committee that produces a website that the League produces called Smart Voter, smartvoter.org. Tell us a little bit about it. I've already given you an opening to say it's got great things. Tell us what it is, basically.
Yes, it is built to give information to voters so that they can make an informed decision. We want to show everything on your ballot from the top to the bottom. We want to make sure that it's got nonpartisan and unbiased information. It is a product of the League of Women Voters of California, and it's 501c3, or its educational arm. So we are not involved with advocacy with the election at all.
This is probably, in my estimation, one of the greatest contributions that the League does provide as a service to the community. What is its history? How did it get started?
It started in 1996. Yeah, there were a couple of League members who, one of which was a national board member, and the information that they had about the possibilities of what you could do with the internet.
And you have to remember, back in '96, there weren't that many websites. That was a new thing. The internet was
very new, very new. And they were introduced to a company called Smart Valley, which started in Silicon Valley. And they had several projects. One of them was this project brought to them by these League members. So they started and did an amazing work in such short time. They started in August, before the November election of 1996, and completely brought up this website. Also operated by volunteers as far as the contact with candidates and things like that. And it was wonderful. After they got it started, they wanted to turn it over to an organization that would continue to support that website and the concept, and that they gave it to the League of Women Voters of California.
Which kind of makes sense. They saw that the League is the right person to continue this and to provide this service.
Exactly.
And it continues actually to still very much be run by volunteers, right?
It's very much. We have a lot of wonderful volunteers. Every county that we work in has one, hopefully more, many have a team of volunteers. Santa Clara County, for instance.
Yes, exactly.
We have a couple of coordinators, and they are the ones who organize the work of the others. We have 5 Leagues of Women Voters in Santa Clara County. Yes. And each one of those has at least one person that works on Smart Voter.
It's a major chunk of time, but it's an important piece of wonderful information that is provided online. Yeah. It's also important that since 96, 97, when it started, it's become statewide, and you even actually are in a couple of other states, too.
That's right. We now support about 90% of the voters in the entire state of California, and that's for all local elections. We also, it's pretty simple to support just the statewide candidates. We obviously do that all for everybody. But the local elections, we're one of the only websites that do that. And that's where all the work is, actually, and the effort that goes in, and where the volunteers work an awful lot to get the information up for the local elections.
Right. Our local San Jose Leagues, Smart Voter persons and team works hard to get all this information onto the website so that it's complete and we have as much information as possible. Quick question, let's take a look at, we want to talk again, it's smartvoter.org. It's a wonderful website. It's one that we want voters and the public out there to know about. So let's take a look at it right now and see if we could, what is it that people will see when they go to this website?
Right. When you go to the home page, and it's sort of cut off there on the top, as you can see, but you can see at the very top in the yellow area is the main part of the home page, where we want you to be able to enter in your address, your street address, and your zip code. And when you do that, we will show you your personal ballot. And I want to tell everybody that we really don't do anything else with this address. You don't be worried that we're going to sell it.
Only used to access their ballot.
It is confidential. We only use it to access your personal ballot.
Okay, so if we go to the next screen, we'll get to see what it is that comes up. There we go.
And this is the beginning of your personal ballot. I have to say to the audience here today that this show is being taped in July. Therefore, it's a little early to come up with information and to be able to show you information that we will have available after in September. September is when we actually start putting a lot of information on Smart Voter, but this is what it looks like right now. Okay. And I think we show, we list where your polling place is. We list give you some links and information about voting on that page. We also list all of the contests and ballot measures that are on your ballot. And think of Smart Voter as an onion, that we're going to peel the onion, or we're going to drill down and start off at the top with high-level information. And when you click on the race name, for instance, it will take you to the next page. And on that page, it will end up showing you all of the candidates that are running for that race and some high-level information about them. We'll show you their some biographical information and their top 3 priorities that they're thinking about, that they would adhere to when they get elected.
It's important to point out that this is different than what they will get when they get their ballot, because the information in the voter information that we get from the registrar is actually a paid piece of information. Isn't that correct?
Yes, the ballot statement that you would find in your sample ballot.
Yes.
The candidates must pay for that, and they sometimes have to pay a lot of money. It depends on the size of their district, the number of voters that live in that district that can vote. And it could be a substantial amount, especially if it's a county-wide race. So the Smart Voter is always providing candidates with this resource for free. We don't charge candidates any money at all.
And what's important is that the league sends 3 questions, correct, to each candidate for an office. Let's say there are 3 or 4 candidates, and the same 3 questions get asked of all of the candidates.
Yes, when you drill down from that other page, you're going to be able to also see the questions that have been asked. And for example, we might ask of, in fact, we are asking in November, we're asking the state assembly and state senate candidates what their opinion is about public education and the problems that we have today, because the fees are going up and the public funding is going down. And so if you would be able to compare all of the candidates who are running against each other on that issue and see if one of them speaks to the way you think that issue should be attacked.
And that's really different, because what I get in the mail, is every voter gets in the mail, is just a slew of pieces of paper, all of them obviously very biased and one-sided. And so at smartvoter.org, we get to see the comparative data on each of the candidates.
And not only comparative data, but you can also, the process that we have when we ask candidates to come on to Smart Voter is that we ask every candidate to participate. And we have wonderful volunteers that solicit the candidates, that they contact them and ask them to do this. And when the candidate comes on and fills out forms to get the data onto our website, volunteers come and look at what they have written before we publish to the public, to Smart Voter.
They're sort of vetted.
Yes. No, we're not vetting at all, except for one thing. We really make sure that no candidate refers to an opponent. They cannot refer positively or negatively. They cannot refer directly by name or indirectly.
That's wonderful.
And you know what
Get
that
away
does?
from that negative kind of...
Exactly. It eliminates all of that negativity. So that means that the candidate must focus. He must or she must focus on exactly what they are thinking about doing when they are going to take office.
We want their thoughts, not what they think about somebody else's thoughts.
Exactly. It's about themselves and their candidacy.
Plus, there's some financial information isn't there as well, financing as well.
Yes, there's one of the places on Smart Voter you can find additional information that we've found, our volunteers have found on websites, especially for assembly and legislative candidates. You can find the campaign finance information. There are several sites that do a really good job of highlighting that information so that you can tell where candidates are getting their campaign funding and how much money they're spending on campaigns.
We've got another big thing that happens on ballots besides the candidate elections, which are very important, and is especially this fall in November. We are going to be just hit with just a huge number of ballot measures, and that's always problematic. In fact, we may have one of the highest numbers of ballot measures, and I think a lot of people are going to be scratching their heads saying, oh my gosh, how do I vote? And another piece of what's on Smart Voter is a lot of information about the ballot measures, and we've even got a screen that we can go to now and take a look at some of those ballot measures. So here's an example of it.
This is an example too. This happens to be from the June primary rather than November because we have not, at this taping date, don't have the information up yet. So what you would do is you would make sure you click on the proposition, and when you do that, you will find all the official information that we have taken from, in this case, because it's a statewide measure, from the Secretary of State. But more importantly, we also give you the additional information that we found from the other places on the web. Also very good league information. The League of Women Voters of California produces what's called Pros and Cons. And this is a project that they have which will look at each ballot measure and figure out try to put in really easy to understand words. What yes means, what no means, what are some of the arguments of why you should vote for this proposition, and what are some of the reasons why you might consider to vote no. So you can try to see what resonates with you. Also, we are going to be linking to organizations like MapLight, which is doing a great job of being able to put the campaign finance information about the propositions onto.
Who's financing a proposition or opposing it is very, very important. I think voters want to hear that. But they want to hear it from an unbiased source.
Exactly. And we have done our best to try to make sure that we at least characterize what kind of information we give you. We will give you some partisan information too, because there are people who are going to give you their opinion about whether you should vote for or against a proposition. And I know I, as a voter, would like to read what they say. And so we do give you that kind of information too.
The key thing on Smart Voter, though, is we've got both sides of the issue.
We have both sides of the issue, and we try to have good nonpartisan analysis on smartvoter.org.
And a lot of the research is done by League people themselves who are trying to make sure that we've covered both sides.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the nice things about smartvoter.org, and let's repeat that again for our voters and viewers out there, smartvoter.org, I like the expression you used once before, it's a one-stop shopping place. And there we've got just about everything. We've talked about the candidates' information. We've also talked about getting a lot of information about pros and cons, but a lot of other information such as where to go for your polling place and registration.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've got a couple minutes now, Carol. Again, let's just kind of review again. Smart Voter, it's a one-stop shopping. It's got great information, easy to use.
Absolutely, because all you have to do is put in your address and zip code and then work off of your personal ballot to see what choices that you want to make. If you want, you can browse the information that we have too. You might even want to browse to see what kind of ballot measures are in other counties or other locations around the state.
It's important that Smart Voter is something that is statewide but is customized for the individual voter, so you get to find the information that you need.
That's right. In many places you might have to just see a list of everybody who's running for state assembly, and you would have to know who your assembly members are or what your district number is. And Smart Voter finds that for you because we have all that information. We can get that information from your address and zip code.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful resource that is we just had Barry Garner on the show, and we talked about his website for the county Register of Voters site. But what Smart Voter does is provide so much more in terms of information.
Exactly. And in fact, you can find out when you cast a ballot, especially we're talking about casting a vote by mail ballot, you'd like to know whether or not and when your vote was counted. You can go to Smart Voter. You'll find a link to Barry Garner's site where you can look up to see when your vote was counted. So we really do try to let you find everything you need to know about the election.
Well, Carol, thank you so very much for being here with us today and helping us understand that when I get all this terrible stuff in the mail and I don't know what to do and I'm ready to throw my hands up in the air and I don't know what to do, there is a place, and that resource is smartvoter.org. Again, let's go to that site for good information on elections, smartvoter.org. It's the place to get one-stop shopping, a great deal of nonpartisan information to make you a better voter. I'm Gloria Chan-Hu. Thank you very much for joining us. And remember, vote.